I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. In this episode of On Brand Taylor's Version, we're joined by Emily Campion, Henry B. Tippie Fellow and Associate Professor at the University of Iowa's Tippie College of Business. Emily's research explores how organizations hire and develop talent. But today, she's going to look at that through a different lens. We're going to talk about Taylor Swift's relentless work ethic, authentic leadership, grit in the face of setbacks, and her ability to balance it all with self-care. My interview with Emily is coming right up. But first,
are you tired of juggling multiple software tools to manage your agency? Say hello to Deltek Workbook, the ultimate solution for marketing and communication agencies. With Workbook, you can streamline your projects, resources, and finances all in one place. Imagine real-time dashboards and reports giving you full visibility into your projects, people, and financials. Plan your team's capacity weeks in advance to avoid bottlenecks while staying on budget to maximize project margins. Plus, Workbook works perfectly for both agencies and in-house marketing teams looking to boost efficiency and profitability. And here's the best part. At PCI, we're a certified Deltek partner and reseller offering expert implementation, integrations, and ongoing support to ensure your success. Want to see how Deltek Workbook can transform your operations? For a free consultation, visit pci.us/podcast today. That's pci.us/podcast.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Emily, welcome to On Brand Taylor's Version.
Thank you so much, Nick. It's nice to see you.
So in our last episode, Sinead O'Sullivan compared Taylor Swift to the ultimate one-person startup, the single key employee driving an entire multi-billion-dollar brand. Now, that kind of productivity doesn't just happen. As someone who studies work and leadership, how do you see, or what do you see, rather, when you look at Taylor's work ethic? How does she do it? What sets her apart?
Yeah, I love this question. And this is probably what stands out to me most about her, especially because she and I are similar in age. So I've watched her evolve as I've evolved. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, we're both growing up. Look at us. And I think what I really love, they talk about it in her documentary and then in a couple books I've read about, she had some feedback from the media on one of her Grammy performances. And although some of them were quite glowing, a couple were more critical of her singing skill, which of course is a theme throughout, people saying she can't sing and all that. But she didn't run from it. She didn't yell about it. She just took it and said, okay, I have to fix this. And she just went and kept working on it. And so I think her ability to embrace feedback, dissect what's something she can act on, separate from sort of the emotional component, is what sets her apart, and her ability to be so productive.
I realized that I was so eager to jump in with that segue from Sinead's setup that I forgot to play our card game. So we're going to come back to her work ethic, because
Okay.
I do wonder, not to switch fan universes, but if us mere muggles can do that, if it's only for her. But first, let's pick an era and
go with that. Okay, I'm going to have to go folklore.
Right, because you dressed for the podcast.
I saw your T-shirt too, and I thought, oh, this is the way to go.
You know what? I'm not sure I've showed in other episodes of this is the back of it.
Oh, oh my gosh! Is that from Ray Gun?
It is.
Yes,
it is. It is. So.
That's amazing, because they use the same heart hand for Caitlin's shirts as well.
Ah, okay.
I'm sure you
Good
will.
eye. Good eye. Well, and Caitlin Clark, known Swiftie,
That's right.
is also on the Funko Pop shelf back there. So All right. The big moment. Folklore. Tell a story that felt magical, real or imagined.
Oh my gosh.
It's like a magical moment from your
Yeah,
life.
I am not by nature like a storyteller. This is, I like research articles. I think actually to be just maybe unoriginal, I'll go with actually. So my husband, who is the original Swiftie in our family, let me be clear, my buff
Credit where
bearded
credit is
husband.
due.
That's right, from Indiana. He's a big Swiftie, and so he was excited about the tour, and I thought, okay, yeah, let's go. Like I sort of followed her music, liked her quietly because I was more of a punk kid, but actually going to that was magical. You're sitting there, and I think it was during the Folklore or Evermore set where I'm standing there watching all of these individuals just like collectively embrace this purely raw, positive experience. And it was so, I know everyone says that, but it's so true as someone who grew up as a tomboy. Like this was probably one of my, and I'm in my 30s, moments where I went, oh my gosh, this is girlhood. This is what being girly feels like. And it's actually amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So like, it sounds really silly, but I think that's probably why I like her so much. Where I'm like, she embraces girliness and femininity, but also she does this in this fantastic career that's very instrumental, like anyone should be in their career, while also being intentional and meaningful with relationships. So I think that's probably why I love her so much. But it really was the Eras tour. I thought, oh, I think maybe it's okay that I like her this much.
While she does all of that while still somehow pulling through Midwestern bearded guys like your husband and I.
That's right.
So remember that you get to do the same thing to me when we come back from the ad break. So be thinking about those eras. But I want to come back to that initial question. You talked about kind of how she does it, that ability to, I mean, it sounds really simple to set a big goal and move toward it, even no matter how audacious that is. How is she able to do it so well or to achieve those results that Sinead talked about? What makes her different? And back to the, are we just all muggles that we can't do it at that same level?
Well, I don't know if we can all do it at the same level, right? Like there are going to be outliers and she's an outlier, but something that like I continue to think about, something I wrote as I was reading. So in the podcast, she bluntly said, and I thought it was wonderful, I'm in the business of emotion, which is historically, organizations have historically been very masculine places where, women really had to fight to work into and move up. And so for her to embrace like, no, emotion is a core component of my strategy, my identity, what I'm sharing, what I'm giving, what I'm receiving, I felt was very high risk, but also exciting because it was risky. But she does this through like generating and facilitating a shared meaning around something. So a lot of people talk about her world building, which I do see. And I want to ask you about this because you are the story guy in my book. And so something I think I just really appreciate is, you listen to a song she writes, and even in my mid 30s, I can go, oh, I remember feeling that way after this breakup, or oh my gosh, how, she didn't go to college. How does she know this is what this feels like? Or, going back to her hometown and these sorts of things. She's just willing to dive in to understand those spaces where maybe she's never been, but she can pull the emotion out of it. So like, if you don't mind me asking you, like, as you listen to her songs and as the person that's really at the forefront of storytelling in our department in college, like, how do you see that playing out or maybe having evolved over time?
Well, that's interesting because you said something in there too that, I mean, and we recorded another podcast for the college the morning after the long New Heights and there's so much there. I almost feel like, as you mentioned that I need to go back and watch it again. But the idea of being in the business of emotion, and you talking about that being that business has typically been a masculine place, and that is not something that allows for emotion. But one interesting kind of overlay is when we talk about brand building, because her answer, and as I'm sitting here hosting a thing that I thought sounded like fun of On Brand Taylor's version, there was a small part of me that didn't know exactly fully what that meant. But I figured we'd learn it along the way. And this makes that point because I think the best brands, I don't know the masculine feminine overlay of that, but the best brands have been about emotion as well. So I think as you talk about that with world building, that even though, as Sinead talks about in her book, everybody raises an eyebrow saying Taylor Swift's the best marketer because she does not do marketing in the way that someone creating ads might go out and look for and see something that they would typically code as an ad. But this thing, this brand building thing, and as you asked me that in terms of the strength of the community, because back to your magical folklore story, in that it was that world that pulled you in and made you feel something that's very complex. And, just, hey, make someone who's always felt like a tomboy feel girly.
Yeah.
That does not feel like an easy assignment, but through, and I think we can all see, whether it's I forget, which set in the tour, if it's the one with the little cabin, if it's the one with the witchy dance in there, but it's all of that. And I think that's where, as I ask for like, what's the muggle advice? I think, that's what the muggle advice for work ethic. I think the brand storytelling advice is to think about that world building. And they could say, oh, that's just Taylor Swift. That's a one-off. I couldn't possibly. But look at the best brands that we always hold up. Look at the Nikes. They're doing it. It is a world that you feel, that makes you feel something.
And a part of it, right? So you're not just on the outside sort of looking in and going, oh, gee, that's nice. You're sitting there and going, oh, I see myself in that, which I think is this something, of course, people who do marketing know much better than I do. That's not my area, but we see this when we think about succession planning in organizations, when we think about, well, who's going to take over this company next? Who are we promoting within? And part of that question is who's ready. And part of who's ready is who's had opportunities to be built, right? And to be developed. And some of that really comes down to whether or not they see themselves in their leader. Can I become, just use an example from our college, like right now, Jennifer Nargan, who's a fantastic leadership researcher, is our department chair. And so seeing another woman as a department chair, I go, oh, maybe I could do that. I don't want to. This comes up a lot. I'm like, no, that sounds like a really hard job. That's not the challenge I want. I know. but I think that is important to show people what that path sort of looks like. And you always need a trailblazer, right? And so she's, I think, showing a way to do that while embracing her gender in a way that hasn't always been embraced. And I think that can be really powerful for people.
So as we talk about embracing gender, embracing self, leadership, her openness, her authenticity with audiences is a big part of that experience. In leadership terms, what can we learn about how we show up authentically at work?
Yeah, it's really hard, right? Especially if you're motivated to succeed. You want to come off as having it all together and knowing what you're talking about and knowing, what path you're taking. But I think there's a real power in going, oh, I don't know, or I'm willing to look a little awkward or silly. Or in my case, literally every day I go, I don't really know what I'm doing. And this is like, I think how I try to connect with my undergrads, because they'll be like, oh, that's so cool. You do this, you do that. I'm like, I'm making it up, guys. Like we're just trying to get through. And then that makes them more open, I think, to me, and I can be more helpful to them. But to draw that more for, in Taylor's world, there's a couple things that she's done that I've seen that I go, oh, dang, like that's just so sweet and considerate and human. And one of them is, so I went to Kansas City night 2 And that's important because we missed night one where she showed Speak Now, the video. And so we missed that by a night, but it was like the energy was still there. It was so cool. But she messed up. But while singing, I want to say it was I think it was Last Kiss or Long Live. And people who are bigger Swifties than me will know which one is correct. But she messed it up like the beginning of it 2 or 3 times. She had to restart it. And she was like, oh, guys, I know this. Like, I promise I know. Like, how human in a crowd of tens of thousands to go, like, I wrote this and I still don't remember the words sometimes, you know?
That is such an important point. And even in like tripping over your bio at the beginning, I'm like, oh, come on, man.
All the time. It's okay.
Come on. But I do think that is important and it plays a role, and we don't think about that too. I love the little moment that you mentioned, and I think it's your own Taylor parallel of, students are sitting there, looking for what the learned professor has to say. And I think sometimes, taking a bit of the air out of that is healthy for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope. I mean, you hope so, right? And I think she just does it so well because she doesn't then go on to question. Well, at least not publicly. If she did it right, she did it wrong. I mean, the other things that she does, and this I think speaks more from a more not narrow, but strictly from a leadership perspective, is the way that she rewards her people and the way that she treats them as a collective, right? So she gave huge bonuses to the truck drivers and other individuals who were involved in the absolute like magical chaos of the Eras Tour, right? Like driving overnight and setting things up, tearing it down, like doing all that. She recognized what it meant. And these were very generous bonuses. And we might not always feel comfortable with like authenticity and finance, money going hand in hand. But I think her recognizing that is how you incentivize people. I mean, you can say thank you until you're blue in the face, but the reality is we need money to live. And so for her to be able to recognize and say, yeah, I'm just going to give away money. Like, you see her walk through the stadiums and tip workers, all these videos and pictures. And she's like a little kid, she's cramped down, like handing it over and going, thank you. Okay, bye. Like a kid getting candy during Halloween. And it's just so precious because it's like, she's able to bring together something that's very sensitive of money, right? Like we work for money, like that, along with this sort of very, just seemingly very kind, like recognizing what they've put into their work is so important. And I wish so many managers would think about that a little bit more, although I do know managers are busy, so don't want to add more, but I think she does that part really well.
Bustin' with the Boys is here to let you know that every college football Saturday, FanDuel is dropping profit boosts that can turn wins into bigger wins.
Sounds like we should rename Saturday Booster Day.
Nice.
21 plus and present in select states. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
On Brand will be right back after this. Now, back to the show. All right. The moment has come. You get to turn the cards back on me.
Yes. Okay, Nick. What era are you in right now?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes, I am.
Well, you just did folklore, so yeah. I feel like, I would say I'm going to go with, because this episode is dropping on the day my email newsletter comes out, and I'm telling a little story about how I ended up a Swiftie.
Oh, yes.
So the red era prompt here is tell a story about a time you felt something big. Well, I'm gonna take a cue from you that talked about feeling something magical at the Taylor concert. So I didn't get to the Eras Tour, and I feel bad. My My wife feels even worse. But kind of like your husband, though I'm not the first Swiftie in the house, I am probably like him, a bit of an atypical one.
Mhm.
We have kids, but none of our kids are really big fans, and so I didn't really grow up with her music in the same way, or my kids didn't, and I remember like the Kanye stuff.
Mm.
And I remember the business case study of her re-recording her masters and thinking, this is interesting, and wondering what will that be like, because no one's ever done anything like that. But outside of that, I really uh, not scratched the surface. So what made me feel something big and was my moment, kind of like your um, feeling during the set at the Eras tour, was watching her all too well on Saturday Night Live, because I had not been following it, so I did not know that. I mean, I think I knew. Oh, she's the guest because her Taylor's version of Red had come out that week, and I remember thinking, oh, this is a fun song, but it was so cinematic. It had the movie behind her. There were leaves falling on the stage and on screen, so it kind of blended the two worlds. And the story just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And little things like the details, like dancing by the fridge light, and all of these things that felt, again, shared. It's through those details that are the shared experiences. And then this was my first exposure, why I drew the picture of the scarf, and it's like, what the hell happened with this scarf? And I'm down the internet rabbit hole. And keep in mind, I used to love staying up late. I have trouble making it to the musical guest and weekend update. That's like my invisible line where I kind of fade off into Sunday, and we'll just catch the wet rest on Instagram. But I was all of a sudden fully awake and didn't know that a 10-minute version of a song, much less this song, could exist. So that made me feel something big, and that is why we're here.
Nick, can I ask you, did it make you cry?
I more than cry, I remember being like whipsawed between a bunch of different things. Like I was mad. And then there was like because there's the add-on of the girlfriend staying the same age, and I'm like, you get him. And so more than like, I don't think I could make it to tears.
Okay.
Because I went a lot of places in 10 minutes, including just kind of the bewilderment of, wait, how long have I been sitting here? And now we know it's 10 minutes. It's that long. But at the time, and kind of back to your prompt of how magical it felt, how long has this been? Has it been 10 minutes? Has it been 20 minutes? I am here and I am in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally hear you. Yeah. And it's so funny because it was actually the Taylor's version of Red that brought me sort of back to her, because life gets busy. I remember her debut album and going, okay, I guess I can like country now. And like, because you're 16 and you're listening to like Blink-182 and like, My Chemical Romance. And then suddenly you hear Taylor's, Highway Don't Care song, and you're going, oh, maybe I do understand country now. Like, maybe I get it. So Red is what brought me back to her, as well as Folklore. And I thought, oh no, I'm going to cry a lot. Like,
I am glad. I now feel a little seen, because it's rare that I find a Taylor Swift fan that I'm conversant with that knows of Highway Don't Care, because I'm a Tim McGraw fan. So that's my kids and the dad country music. So
I could see that. Okay, so your kids aren't huge Swifties. They're not.
No, my wife and I are. So
part of the Swifterhood, as they say.
As they say. So my story talked a bit about, the ongoing the obstacle with not owning her master's, which back to that New Heights. Good Lord, I feel like that was worth the price of admission because it just felt so. I mean, I don't know if it's like an entrepreneurial struggle, but I really felt, she made the case for that in a way that I mean, I don't think a lot of people have, and she said that that people are now at least having the conversation about it. But she's faced a lot of obstacles. You talked about, public criticism, people who didn't like her singing, and going back into to work on that. And she always seems to bounce back stronger. How do you see? We talk a lot about grit. How do we see grit playing into her story?
Yeah, I think a couple things. That's a good question, because I know some people aren't huge fans of like grit. They feel like it's over generalizing or sort of like not a strong enough term for what it actually represents. And other people prefer like resilience. But I think what it comes down to, I remember very vividly the Taylor Swift is over party hashtag. I think I was in grad school and I was like, I possibly do not have time to care about this. I am so busy and drowning. But also I was like, this is so mean. But also I was like in my, mid to late 20s. So I was like, I have no power here. And so I'm just gonna like not do anything. But I think it continues to come back to sort of her strategy in the beginning of just like being so driven toward, I don't obviously don't know her. So I don't know if it was really fame or creativity or a combination of both. And also who cares if she wants fame? A lot of people want fame, but she was so pushed to do that she found ways to connect with people in those relationships. So one of the books, hold on. I don't remember what it was. It might've been Kevin Evers' book. This
is good. I wanted you to you have all your books there and you've done a book report. So, what have you got there standing by?
I know. Isn't it terrible? I've got Sinead O'Sullivan's book, of course. I've got Kevin Evers' There's Nothing Like This, The Strategic Genius. And then I've got probably my favorite one so far. It's called The Glory of Giving Everything by Crystal Harianto. Oh, I wonder if I'm saying her name right. I wrote it down phonetically somewhere, Harianto, because I looked it up. Yeah, I think that's right. But one of them, it was either Kevin or Crystal, were talking about how early on in her career, she was given it the advice of like, if you want to make it and you want to have a breakthrough, you've got to get out there and meet people. Like I don't remember the numbers, but it was like, for every new, you've got to meet 500,000 people or 100,000 people. I forget which one it was, but it was some crazy number. And as far as I can tell of the retelling, she didn't sort of like balk at that. She thought, oh, I have to do this. Like I have to go meet people and get people on board. Right. So like relationship building is baked right into her strategy, her identity, and how she does things. And so she continues to, she's like Sinead mentioned in your episode with her, she's a very small team.
Yeah.
And that works to her benefit to have a small team to lean on and lean into when things go really rough. Of course, everyone's aware how close she is with her family, and some of her friends that she's had a long time, but like continuing to rely on those social support networks, I have to believe is one of the main reasons, besides her raw passion and drive, which obviously play a role. But those have to be individuals who really help guide her thinking in low moments, or just let her be low in low moments, right? But are there with her. So it sounds like really trite to be like, oh, her relationships, but research again and again tells us that relationships, no matter how we find them or build them, whether that's through community, programming, whether that's through our church, whether that's through, people at work, like that sort of community, those social support pieces where you can lean on people is what gets you through those really difficult and sometimes like traumatic times that she's had, of course.
That's a good segue also to talking a bit about self-care, because you talk about the the focus and grit of I'm going to go meet X number of people to, have that exponential effect. But she's also famously protective of her private time, even disappearing between eras. Can we learn something about setting boundaries, about both having the focus, but that yet also taking that reset time?
Yeah, probably. Something that people are famously not great for is setting boundaries and receiving boundaries. But she seems to have done, and this goes back to, I think, the wonderful point you made earlier to talk about her marketing. Her fan base does her marketing for her. I mean, look at you and I right now. Right? You're building up, like you put this together so well to build up to the new album release. I mean, you're doing it for her, right? I mean, and I think I don't know what came first, whether her recognizing that she could pull back and people would stay, right? Like you often see people will pull back, and then the fan base might dissipate a bit because in this case, because she was so, they age. Maybe they don't connect in the same way to the stories she's telling or what have you. But it seems to me that people were still sort of like right there and ready for her when she got back. And I think, again, that comes down to this relationship building, but her recognizing that she doesn't need to engage in that relationship all the time for it to be there. And so in some ways, it's this really healthy, like, I think of friends from college that I don't talk to very often, but the moment I call them, they're right there calling me the same names that they called me when we were 20. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think though? I mean, as someone who's, again, like your storytelling expertise and more, of course, you're so much more than that too, Nick, but thinking about that sort of coming back with a new set of stories to tell and how her fans just receive her every time.
Well, I think first I would say when you flipped it back around on me, I thought I feel like a perfect case study of we as human beings not typically being very good at this. Mm-hmm. Because I'd say only until actually I think for me, like, I'm a very productive person, but I think until about 2020, I did not stop.
Yeah.
And I think that the pandemic broke me. And it broke me emotionally, and it broke me. I mean, even just when the only thing that I did was sitting at my desk doing this, I physically, I ended up in physical therapy. I was emotionally overdone, but I do think, beyond the sad story of Nick, the good that came out of that is I do feel like the past few years I've learned a lot about taking that time and what that looks like. And I do think it plays a role in, I've always, in the business of things creative, I've always valued time mowing the lawn, cleaning the garage, doing the dishes, where you're seemingly away from it. And that's often where the next idea or set of ideas or era will find you.
Oh, I love that. And can I connect that to some research real quick?
Yes. Oh, please. Because to quote you, I'm just making this up as I go.
It's okay. We all are. Yeah. So there's a couple streams of research that are really exciting about this idea of detaching from work. Of course, you've got research on recovery, where you like fully detaching from work can be one of the healthiest and most, I don't want to say productive forms, but really help you actually even perform even better in your job because you've taken that time. And I like when I'm thinking of, and it's exactly what you're saying. When I think about when I'm recovering from work, I try to engage in other activities that are still, like, cleaning the house historically has been terrible, right? Like, we hated doing it when we were kids, but oh my gosh, how cathartic now that we're older. I bought a vacuum like that's way too expensive, and it's my favorite thing to do now. And I really used to hate vacuuming, and now I'm like, okay, I'll vacuum. I'll take that chore because it's monotonous, but you also see a product at the end. You see not finality, but you see progress. Maybe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You must feel the same about mowing.
Well, it's interesting too because you were using the label of recovery, and I I'm late to this game, but I'm reading Shoe Dog, the Phil Knight Nike founder,
Oh yeah.
and he talks a lot about the Oregon track and running, and I'm some kind of runner, but
Awesome.
he talks about Bill Bowerman at Oregon and that he was one of the first big thinkers in athletics on the value of recovery.
Mm-hmm.
That in athletic pursuits, it was mostly the more is better thought. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you want to beat that team, you've got to do more work than that team.
Mm-hmm.
But Bowerman was really the one that was innovative around the idea of rest and recovery. And I feel like there's some, I can't quite connect the dots, but I feel like the dots are close.
Maybe we should go mow the lawn. We'll connect those dots. Like, because so I remember listening to a fantastic podcast years ago. I'm not going to remember any of it. I'm so sorry, but I will find it and send it if you're interested. But the researcher was talking about the power of boredom, which of course feels so relevant because we're like perpetually online. But I think that those ideas are nicely woven together in the area of recovery to say, like, when you allow your brain to wander or organically, right? Like for me, it's taking my dog on a walk. We have a mile. It's a mile exactly around our block. And it's the perfect, 20 minutes. That might be slow for some people, so don't judge, but like 20 minutes to like really work through a problem. Right? Because I don't have headphones on. I'm not looking at my phone. It's put away. I'm just mostly watching my dog's ears bounce as she walks. It's the cutest thing in the world. And so, but it allows your brain to sort of figure things out as they go. I mean, that's why sleep is so important. Our brains do a lot of processing while we're sleeping through problems, right? I mean, I'm sure you felt that where you go to bed feeling a certain way and then you wake up and you're like, no, I can handle this, or I can take this on, or, oh, I'm glad I didn't send that email now that I've had some rest, right? It allows us to sort of figure some of this out. And so I love that connection to Nike too, and to athletics, because I think those feel very relevant too, if it's just purely cognitive versus, cognitive and physical, like athletics. You need time to let your muscles regenerate. My very limited understanding from that science is actually rest is where some of that building is occurring, because you're putting stress on your muscles, and then to let it rest, you actually sort of build them up. Am I right? Did I actually make that?
I think you did. Because I was going to say, well, and that would track because the brain's a muscle, right?
Someone will tell us if I'm right.
Making it up. Before our final question, I do want to ask, because we've talked a lot about self-care, grit, vulnerability, productivity. Someone's listening and thinking, I would just wish I could be a little more like Taylor Swift in my own work ethic. Is there one like quick takeaway that you think, hey, here's one small habit?
That's so hard. Nick, that's so hard.
I know. I made you ask for one limited thing.
No, but so I'm always inclined to be like, well, follow your passion. But the advice that I really have taken to heart that I've received over the years is like, not only find something you like, but find something you're good at and that you can build from. Right. So I think as much as I have convinced myself that I very much still could start a punk band and be the drummer I always wanted to be, the reality is I have no rhythm. My husband will tell you that, as I dance around our house all the time, and he just goes, oh, Emily, it's so bad. But I'm good at statistics, right? I'm good at writing. I'm good at those things, and I do enjoy them. So I think there is this happy middle of thinking like, what's something I do have some sort of knack for, not that you have to be the best at it right away, but something that that you're drawn toward a bit that you can build from. So you don't feel depressed at 36 going, I never got to be the punk rocker I was meant to be because I don't have rhythm.
I think that's a great point and a good bit of advice.
Let's hope.
Emily, what is an song, album, era that has made you smile recently?
Oh, yeah, I had one when we started talking earlier, and now I wonder if I need to change it. But actually, we talked about Red, and when I listened to Taylor's version many years ago, I just was so drawn to this song because I was learning ukulele at the time, which I have since dropped. Again, I'm not going to be a famous ukuleleist either. Was Stay, Stay, Stay. Just this real plucky, cute sort of love song. And it's just, and she laughs at the end, and it's just this and you hear her redo it as Taylor's version. And so I can't listen to that without just like beaming because it's just so dang cute and so innocent. I love that.
I love that example, and I've thought of taking up the ukulele also.
Oh,
but
should we start a ukulele band?
I don't know. Maybe it's come up, and then my kids caught me searching for it, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh God, no." Yeah, I've got there might be some bullying that happens in my house.
There might be a little bit. That's why we turn to Taylor. But what about you? What Taylor related thing is bringing you joy? Song, album, era?
It's not a song or an era. But I think coming back to, like I said, I need to watch the New Heights interview again. Mm-hmm. Just because I love the quote in there of, now I'm going to get it wrong. What did she say about your time being a luxury or that other people can't afford?
Yes.
And it's like, gosh, that's, I mean, there's piles of self-help books out there, but I think you might be onto something there, Taylor. Seriously.
I love that. Yeah. Your energy is like a luxury good. Not everyone can afford it. Something like that. I love that. Yeah. Let's talk about self-care.
Yeah. All right. Well, Emily, where can folks go to learn more about who you are and what you do?
Man, I'm not even remotely I don't have a personal website. I have my university website and an Instagram that has mostly pictures of my cats.
All right. Well, we will send folks there to learn more about you and your university work and your cats as well. Emily, thanks for joining us and talking Taylor.
Thanks, Nick.
On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Hennika Watkins-Porter hosts The Entrepreneurial You, empowering entrepreneurs with insights on leadership, business, and success. Hennika, tell listeners what to expect from your show.
So we provide innovative business strategies and practical solutions to common entrepreneurial challenges.
And where can people subscribe?
Find us at hennikawatkinsporter.com, as well as the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net, or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.